Hey folks, before I start all of this, know that this is part of a Substack article, and the link to that Substack article is down below. Also realize that this is part of an ongoing series because I am covering these Cuban spies. So far between videos and an article, I have started covering the spies for Cuba that infiltrated the U.S. government. Anna Montez, via my review of the book codenamed Blue Wren, showed a weakness in how people are vetted, even in one of the more necessary intelligence agencies. Marta Velazquez was well connected with USAID, which works closely with the State Department, which allowed her access to more information and our embassies in Central America. Both were spying for ideological reasons, as was the married couple that will be discussed here. Kendall and Gwendolyn Myers were well connected, along with having privileged lives that saw them learning from Ivy League schools. With all of that, they were enamored with the ideas of revolutionary Marxism. Now, most people hear Marxism and stay there in their understanding. Revolutionary Marxism comes from the stance that there must be an ongoing and constant revolution for Marxism to truly reach the full potential. This is where most people that claim all the nations that were and are socialist or communist are not really so. Cuba is a special place for them in that regard, as Castro preached revolution. Now, American academia is filled with professors enamored with that aspect, with Kendall Myers having been one of them. There are many student groups for beginners to learn of the struggle while they also shout Free Palestine as the brutal tactics of the terrorists in control of the Muslims that are used as poster children for that cause are the same tactics used by Marxists. It is no wonder that people develop a love for the regime of Castro with professors and groups like that spreading the religion of Marx and Engels. While most of this is about Kendall, Gwendolyn was just as culpable, but stayed in the background to maintain the looks of a woman behind the man trope. She did that while Kendall was working to get the information from the State Department and that the Cuban intelligence services needed. Remember that while these folks started decades ago, the environment in academia still exists, and Cuba has made a fortune by selling information they did not directly need. Also, folks, hit like and subscribe because I will be covering this and many other topics that will help you understand what's going on inside our government. So let's get into this dude's biography.
Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself.
Well, Kendall Myers is the great grandson of Alexander Graham Bell, the grandson of Gilbert Hovey Grosvenor, while also being related to President William Howard Taft, who was born in 1937, which means he got started a little late in a spy game, interestingly enough. He went to the prestigious Mercersburg Academy in Pennsylvania before heading to Brown University, which then led to a doctorate from Johns Hopkins. In 1977, he became a contract instructor at the State Department's Foreign Service Institute, which started his long career there. It was also around that time that the news caused him to start having issues with the U.S. Now, I'm wondering about this. I could find no hard evidence, but I will say this much. It was also around the same time that he met Gwendolyn, and I don't know if that's actually anything to do with it, but hey, as a man that had been a lifelong bachelor, that helps. In 1978, he got invited to Cuba by a Cuban government official that had given a presentation at FSI. While there, he found out that the man was a member of the Cuban intelligence services, and he learned about Cuba from the lens of them seeing if he would make a good source of information. He would write in his diary about the 2 weeks there where he developed an affinity for the way Castro ran the island nation. When Myers got back, he and his then girlfriend Gwendolyn moved to South Dakota. The same Cuban agent came and visited them in 1979, which led to them being recruited to be spies. They moved back to the D.C. area in 1980, where they would be married in 1982. Kendall would be Agent 202, while Gwendolyn would be known as both Agent 123 and Agent E634. Kendall was told to seek employment from either the State Department or the CIA, which led to him getting the full-time position at the State Department. He also started teaching at Johns Hopkins Paul H. Nett School of Advanced International Studies part-time. This is the same school attended by both Ana Montez and Marta Velazquez, who would be students while he was a professor. Gwendolyn got a job at a local bank as first an administrative assistant or analyst, and then a special assistant. She would at no time be employed by the government, with all the information being gathered exclusively by Kendall. Unlike Ana Montez, this allowed the paired agents to be able to have something real while leading a double life and share what they were dealing with. The two would use shortwave radios and deal with number stations, like many other spies for Cuba would. They would also travel to places like Mexico, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Brazil, Ecuador, Argentina, and wherever else their Cuban handlers would be to pass on information. They could appear to be blue blood jet setters, which is not a bad cover by any means. Kendall also claimed that he and Gwendolyn got to share a meal with Fidel Castro in 1995. In addition to his FSI duties, Kendall would start working part-time with the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research from 1988 to 1999, which disseminates data and intelligence provided to develop the stances for the State Department. He would then move full-time to the INR, where he would become a senior analyst on European issues. All this would take him from having a secret clearance to a top secret to a secret or top secret sensitive compartmental information. That's top secret SCI. Though he was a specialist on European matters, he would be constantly reviewing what the State Department had on Cuba. From August 2006 until his October 2007 retirement alone, he reviewed more than 200 documents on the nation he was spying for. In one unrelated bit of drama, Kendall stirred up controversy by publicly stating that the special relationship between the U.S. and Great Britain was one-sided. This was done in 2006. He stated he was ashamed of how then-President George Bush had treated then-British Prime Minister Tony Blair. The State Department said he said this as an academic, not in his role as an analyst for the State Department. Even some of the members of Parliament stated that they thought the statements were disingenuous. Now, the intelligence community noticed that there was still information headed to Cuba even after that Montez was busted and Velasquez fled. This caused them to bring in Robert Booth, a retired member of the State Department's Office of Counterintelligence, and others to build a profile as to who they needed to look into. It was determined that the spy had worked for the State Department, which led them to bringing in the Diplomatic Security Service and their Office of Counterintelligence. It was determined that the person had to have a top secret clearance, was most likely civil service instead of foreign service, lived in the D.C. area, and had a wife who had a medical condition. This went from a list of 200 to a list of 27 quickly, which then led them to Kendall Myers' file. He met all the criteria as Gwendolyn had had an operation to fix an issue with her shoulder. That meant that they could then go to the FBI to have them investigate the Myers more directly. This took a while as the FBI was as reluctant as when they went after Ana Montez. They eventually decided to start Operation Vision Quest. They found the passcode that would help them to get close to the Myers, who were retired by the time the 2009 sting started, and was frequently on their 37-foot yacht, which they had named Helene. He was still teaching at SAIS, which allowed the investigators to realize the now elderly couple would not be leaving anytime soon. That is when they sent an undercover officer to them at SAIS. He walked up carrying a wooden box and offered them a cohiba and said the password. There would be 4 meetings in total before they arrested the Myers. All meetings were recorded, with the undercover being able to get the couple chatty about what all they had done. They described how they had used a grocery store for drops and how they had traveled to meet with their handlers. Kendall also admitted to having given away top secret information. Gwendolyn admitted to being the one that processed the documents at home to be sent on to the Cuban intelligence services. Like Montez, Kendall did most of the gathering by memorizing the information so that he would not be found out by a simple search. The couple still had many notes from information they had not been able to deliver yet to their handlers. Some of the information that was gathered was corroborated with intercepted shortwave transmissions that had been sent in 1996 and 1997, which had been unencrypted. This led to them pleading guilty after their arrest. Gwendolyn got 6.5 years, while Kendall got life without parole. Gwendolyn has since finished her sentence in 2015. This also led then Secretary Clinton to order a review of all policies and procedures at the State Department to try and prevent this in the future. Castro would thank them in a public statement, though it also said it in a way to say that he did not know about them. This is the dangers that are facing this country. End of story. We are facing dangers because we have an education system that is brainwashing people into thinking that they can do this. We have a government that has gotten so bogged down in bureaucratic nonsense that these people are able to slip through the cracks. We need to fix this. This information, if it's not directly related to Cuba, is then being used by the Cuban government to be sold to make money for their government. Yes, they are looking into far more than just Cuba stuff. We need to be aware of this. We need to know what the dangers are. I'm reading up on all this. I've got another person that I know about that I'm going to soon make another video about. I've got several things that I've got in the works on this, and I am going to keep looking into it. So, stay tuned, but also know that this is what's happening within our government. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye. So, folks, that's the story that I wanted to bring you on this video. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming by. Hit like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff if you don't mind. Help me out. So, y'all have a good day now. Bye.